Welcome to South Coast Matters. I'm Paul Latendra.
And I'm Julie Taylor. And South Coast Matters is a local cable access program where we bring together business leaders, civic leaders, and citizens to discuss how we can have a positive impact on our South Coast communities.
And we try to have interesting conversations with some interesting people. And today's interesting person is Dennis Gallagher. Dennis is from Bridgewater. He's a town councilor in Bridgewater. And we're very pleased to have Dennis here today.
It's great to be here at the Taunton Cable Access Studio again for my second show. And I'm looking forward to the discussion about the issues of the day.
Some people want to know how Bridgewater fits into the South Coast. South Coast, theoretically, is the area between Narragansett Bay and Buzzards Bay. And the vortex that forms around it. And Bridgewater's at the top of that vortex. Really, Taunton, New Bedford, Fall River form the anchor cities of the South Coast. But Bridgewater certainly sends a lot of, there's a one-way road from Bridgewater to down towards Wareham area.
Yes.
It's a pretty well-traveled road, worn-out streets.
We've always been considered a little, like I look at it as being the lost town. When I watch the weather, do we listen to what the South Shore is going to get, or do we listen to what the South Coast is going to get? Sometimes we get what the Cape weather gets, sometimes we get what the Boston weather gets. So we're kind of in that middle. But I think we're more considered South Coast than South Shore.
Now, do you pick up Providence stations as well as Boston stations?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're part of that media market that's in between
Yes.
here, there, nowhere. Yeah.
Right.
Good. Julie had some questions about town governance.
Town government in Bridgewater.
Yes, since you're a political junkie, we're political junkies, and we just thought we'd kind of discuss local politics.
Sure.
So Bridgewater's gone through a transition from a board of selectmen to a town council over the last few years. So maybe you can discuss why that happened and how that process worked.
Sure. We actually had two major transformations of government within an 8-year period. In 2002, we went from 3 selectmen to 5 selectmen, just in 2002. And that's when I got elected. I got elected when the Board of Selectmen expanded from 3 to 5 members. So I ran for a 1-year term in 2002. That's how they staggered the extra 2 people in. Then in 2003, I ran for a 3-year term and did another 3-year term until 2009. Then I got out. In 2010, we voted to go to a manager-council form of government, and that was passed and implemented in 2010. In Bridgewater right now, we have 9 councilors. We have 7 precincts, so 7 each. We have 1 elected from each precinct. So we have 7 precinct councilors, and then 2 at large. I am one of the at-large councilors, so my district is the whole town. When I'm on the ballot, I'm on.
What's the population of Bridgewater?
The population is 27,000.
And at what threshold are you allowed to decide you want to go to a town council form of government?
Well, there really isn't one. I mean, there are smaller communities that have the council form of government like we have, and there are larger communities that still have selectmen. So it was really one of the issues when this was all proposed, some saying we're still too small of a town to consider ourselves a city, if you will. We really have that classification now. We don't have a mayor. We have a town manager that has the authority under the charter to really run the day-to-day operations of the town. When we went from selectmen to councilmen, we took town meeting out of the process. In essence, the council members are now the town meeting, and the town manager is really what you would call the selectman prior to this. So, but he's got all the authority, and he's the one that's held accountable, and makes pretty much the day-to-day decisions for the town. We have a lot to vote on, and we have a lot of things can propose things and ordinances and so forth. We certainly have a lot of responsibility. But we have a town manager now.
Who appoints the town manager?
The town council appoints the town manager.
And he reports to the town council?
Yes.
So there are no other towns, small towns like Bridgewater, in the South Coast that currently runs that way then?
South Coast, no, I think the closest one is
selectmen.
Franklin, I think
Oh,
is,
Franklin,
is
okay.
similar to what we have. That's the closest one I can think of.
Now, why would your citizens be willing to give up town meeting? That seems to be such a sacred thing in New England, to give it to 9 councilors to make those decisions.
Apathy. Apathy is one of them. Nobody was attending town meetings, or you would just have, if it was, it would be a issues-oriented attendance. If there was something hot on the warrant, then those people come out and either support it or they're against it. There was very little participation. Even now, I got elected in April of 2015 to my 3-year term as a councilman. I was unopposed, and we had 2 other seats up at the same time. One was just unopposed, and the other one had no candidate. They had no candidate, so someone got involved at the very end, got 60 write-in votes, and that person got elected. Who's great. I love serving with her. She's very smart. But you don't have apathy, and that's why I think people were saying at that time to let's go to a council form of government. Some people still don't like that, and they wish they had that town meeting vote and town meeting attendance and so forth.
You're probably doing a good job if you have apathy, because if you really screwed things up, you'd hear about it. Where that much apathy probably means, they're doing
Well, I
okay.
remember being involved in 2003, 2004, some very hotly contested issues in Bridgewater, where we went from 3 to 5 selectmen, where we had a slew of candidates running. We had maybe 13 people running for those 3 extra seats that year. It was great. We had turnout was high. We also had a major school issue in Bridgewater back then, where we lost our certification. We had overcrowding schools. We had deteriorating buildings. We approved, the taxpayers of Bridgewater, over $100 million in infrastructure needs for our schools in 2003 and 2004. We now have, and it's actually 10 years old. It's been open now 10 years. I can't, time flies. We have a state-of-the-art high school in Bridgewater that serves the students of the Bridgewater and Rainham community. It's a beautiful high school. We have a renovated middle school, when we have another school that was renovated as well. But we now have another issue with an elementary school that we're dealing with at the moment. But that drew people out. The pocketbook issues will drive people to the polls. We all know that. And there was some division at that time in our community, where some didn't want to build a new high school. Some wanted to de-regionalize. It was really a heated, you put a lot of capital on the political capital on the table when you voice your opinions and concerns about that. But I think the way we handled it, the way the final vote came out, and the way it has been implemented has been great for Bridgewater and the community of
What's
Rainham
the tax
as well.
rate now in Bridgewater?
It's like 11.30 per thousand.
Tax rates are one of those funny things. They fluctuate so much depending on your value of the
Appraisal,
town
yeah.
and all of that. So sometimes those are kind of an odd thing to look at, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
After talking to the assessors, that's another thing we should do a show on, is how
True.
is property assessed, because it's confusing.
True, because we all know what happened in 2008. Everything just tanked, and home values just dropped tremendously. A lot of people were underwater and couldn't refinance, couldn't get any equity out of their house, and if they had to sell, they lost a ton of money. That was very, very tough times. But now, here it is 8 years later. The market is doing very well. The housing market, that is. Interest rates are still 3.5%, 4% or better. So if you're in the market to buy a house right now, you're going to do pretty well. You're going to pay a little higher than if you were looking in maybe 2010 or 2011, when you could have got something for a good deal, with the interest rate still being low. That helps the economy as well. But Bridgewater is somewhat of a bedroom community. We have a great university in our town that I'm very proud of, and I think is an asset to our community, which I know a lot of residents here in Taunton are students over there. Many residents of Taunton even teach over there. It's a great asset to our community. I wish I took more advantage of the university, but I don't. But that's just the thing.
Now, what kind of a partner is the university? I know they have their public policy part of the college over there has students that will help out with certain things. So I don't know, do they partner with you on policy issues, or do you get the students to help you out with that kind of stuff? Or?
Yes, there is a great communication between the college and particularly our town manager and the community. Most recently, just a simple local project is in the fall we had a cleanup day in Bridgewater where we all gathered at the Common. We all Noonan Waste Services provided us trash bags and safety T-shirts. It was during the day anyway, but there was still the T-shirts that stand out bright yellow. And we went around the parameters of the center of Bridgewater and we picked up trash. Okay. And one of the fraternities at Bridgewater State University sent over all their students, and they all participated. We had 50 people out there helping clean up the town and so forth. So those are some of the things that we work together on.
Have a big impact with 50 people picking trash.
Absolutely, yeah. And you wouldn't believe what we picked up. Someone came back with a shopping cart. Yeah. I don't know where they found it. But we hate to say we have to do stuff like that, but trash needs to be picked up. But it worked, and those are some of the relationships that we have with the community, that the community has with Bridgewater State University, and it goes even beyond that with providing some of our town employees with tuition assistance if they want to attend a class over there, and other various events during the years. We all know in September they inaugurated a new president, and then Bridgewater University turned 150. Wow. A couple weeks after that.
It is a university now.
Yes, it is.
Full-fledged university.
That'll help them with the ability to get more grants and for more research, and they have a good public policy. They can get a master's in public administration at the university now too. So I think it's an asset to our community. It's a beautiful campus, and it's not a gated campus. It's right in our community. Right. You can drive right through it. There's no gate to get in. It's in the center of our community. I think it's an asset. They've grown tremendously just in the 20 years that I've lived there, particularly the last 10. I don't know what their long-term plans are now as far as growth goes, but I think that they're a great asset that we have.
Do they have events that are open to the community, whether it be artistic events or dramas, choral events?
Yes, we do get notices. And I think there's even one tomorrow night. There's Distinguished Speaker Series that they have over there, and the community can certainly attend those.
Have you
for free of
spoken at
charge.
that yet?
No, I haven't been invited on that one.
Not yet.
But a couple years ago, I remember David Gergen. You all see him on CNN.
Yep.
He was over there. Madeline Albright was a guest over there a couple years ago. So they
very distinguished.
Very distinguished.
As opposed
very
to
smart.
just distinguished.
Yes. So but they do include the community in on a lot of the activities in the speaker series and other events that they do over there. So I just think it's a
great asset to
great asset to the town, and provides a lot, revenue to the town. They were out there, buying sandwiches at lunch or buying homes in our community and so forth. So some people see it otherwise, but I don't.
I bet your beer sales in town really do well too.
Well, you always have a little bit of problems when you have students in any community, but let's hope it's just a small one.
No matter what, you're going to have that. But I think some of the issues facing Bridgewater today, same issues that the city of Taunton faces and every community faces. We're always relying, it's budget season now. We're all building our fiscal 17 budget right now. I know probably the mayor here is in his office now, sharpening his pencil and figuring out, how much the school aid he's going to get and local aid, and the revenues coming in for the city. We're doing the same thing in Bridgewater as every community is. Every budget's tough. You have your fixed liabilities with your health insurance. It's always a big nut to crack in the municipal budget as far as your retirement assessments and so forth. So you sit down and make priorities. So I don't know how the budget's going to shake out in Bridgewater this year. We're hoping to make progress with our fire department particularly, where we have hired 8 new firefighters recently under a grant, where we'll be funded over a 3-year period, and then then the funding level will get kind of weaned off where the town would pick that up. But the great thing about that, and this is where municipal planning comes into play, is that we have firefighters that are going to retire out. So now the new ones come in and they retire out. So you're left with not an overstaffed or an understaffed level of firefighters. You've got now trainees that are ready to take over.
Who does your actual budget? Is it city manager or is it assigned to the council? Or?
The town manager puts together the budget and presents. He's presented to us the expense side so far. The revenue side hasn't been presented to us yet, but we have a good idea. And we do meet tomorrow night. I don't know if we'll have that for tomorrow night. But he works with the department heads probably since the early in the winter, in December and January, and tells them, please submit your budget with a message. Submit needs-based budget, or add 5%, cut 10%, whatever. He sends the message to them. They submit their budget based on what they need to operate their department. Then you look at the revenue, and that's when the discussions begin.
Now, in light of the way the governor had to make some 9C cuts this year, and that seems to happen every 10 years or so, he's got to go through that cycle, and where revenues were down a little bit, even though they seem to be coming up now, that's part of how they send the message to the department heads. They forecast based on what they're hearing from Beacon Hill.
Sure, absolutely, because local aid is a key to every community. Every community, local aid is important, particularly with the schools. But the governor's budget is out. His recommendations are out there, and he did not hurt local aid this year. As a matter of fact, we saw about a 4% increase in local aid, and we saw about the same at the school side, maybe not quite as much as 4%, but I think it was like 3% on the school side. But because Bridgewater school district is a region with Rainham, we have a transportation subsidy because of that, and that was put in there as well. So, and I think most municipalities, I don't want to speak for the city of Taunton, but I think most municipalities did not get hurt with the governor's budget. They weren't cut. There were some increases in all the local aid.
Even though that could change slightly once the legislature gets finished going over the governor's budget. It doesn't generally change much, but
right.
it could.
Usually it's the opposite. Usually a governor will come out and either level fund local aid or cut local aid, and it's the legislature that puts it back in.
Yeah.
So I can't see the legislature cutting it, perhaps adding to it, I don't know. But that'll be a debate on Beacon Hill. But I believe in general there isn't a big uproar in the communities based on what the governor is proposing.
Can I back you up a moment? Now that you've put all the money into the schools and you're 10 years into your new school, how's the performance?
Oh,
Your schools were underperforming, correct?
We've certainly got our accreditation back. We have, I don't know the percentage, but it was out recently, a very high percentage, much higher than ever, of our students are going on to a four-year college commitments, and that's important. Because when you lose your accreditation, you go to apply to colleges, they look at that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at the time. It's really not all about your grades and what you bring to the table. It's, well, what kind of education did you get where you're coming from? And if you're coming from a school that's lost its accreditation, that way can have a lot of say on whether that individual is going to accept it to the college of their choice. I didn't hear of many incidents of that happening, but now that we have the accreditation back and we're strong and we're winning awards, and we have the highest percentage of the students in Bridgewater Rainham are going on to college at the highest levels ever, is a very good thing. So it's it's a success story, absolutely.
Bridgewater Rainham's always prided themselves on a great education, so it was no doubt they were going to bring themselves out of that hole somehow. It was just a matter of solving it politically.
Sure.
So.
And I think I read today, the name escapes me, one student has been accepted to the Naval Academy.
Oh, that's great.
Recently too, so that's those kinds of things I think are important. It's important for the school district to talk about their successes, because certainly when something goes wrong, that's going to get put out there. But when there is a success story and when something positive happens, that needs to be put out there to let the community and the rest of the public know that these are some of the good things that our school system is doing.
And we had Carol Doherty, a member of the school committee in the city of Taunton, on one of our shows, and she said the exact same thing about how great the Taunton schools are doing, despite what you hear in the news.
Right.
So there's lots to be proud of.
News in general, I think countrywide, negative stuff gets reported on. I was reading an article in the March issue of the Atlantic, James Fallows, and he spoke about during presidential years, politicians basically focus on the negative because they're trying to change the administrations or trying to unseat other politicians. So the negative really gets highlighted during presidential election years. And he visited 300 communities around the country, and he says he's seeing good things happening around the country, different parts of the country, all over. Small towns, big towns. He tried to focus on cities where the cameras weren't spending a lot of time, and just seeing some really good things happening from Duluth, Minnesota to San Bernardino, where the massacres were. He actually talked about good things happening there and them having a lot of problems, but overcoming their problems up until the massacres.
Sure, as every community now is struggling with this opioid addiction problem, it's just rampant everywhere, and the governor is, I think, has funded earmarked $200 million for various communities. I think Taunton got a good chunk of that money to address those issues. Bridgewater has its problems with that as well. It's unfortunate. Let's hope we get a grasp on this in the near future, because there's some young, smart kids that have just got themselves wrapped into this thing that's gonna kill them, and it's sad. It really is.
It's happening to adults as well.
Sure.
Yeah, just mature adults who go from painkillers to
Sure.
Get in a car accident, end up on painkillers, and graduate to get hooked on the painkillers, switch over to opioids, which are cheaper.
Yeah, and we really have to educate the younger ones,
Sure.
starting as early as, 8th grade, I think, because my daughter's involved in this issue. But to start young and get parents to have a dialogue with their kids about drugs is important, and just try to remove the stigma. But
There's no simple, easy answer.
No, there
It's-
isn't.
It's amazing that.
there isn't.
But to see the young lives just, it's like they have. I mean, I saw the HBO documentary that focused on
The
a group
Cape.
of kids from the Cape,
Yeah.
and it's almost like they had no hope. It's like they had no hope, and it was just like, well, why? Why don't they have what? What are they afraid of? What? Get out there. You know, what is it? And I don't know. I don't have the answer either. But I do think we need to do what we're doing, pay attention to it. There are plenty of seminars and workshops and awareness speaking programs going on out there. That I think the more we do that, hopefully we'll see the curve kind of go down somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the speaking programs, I think it's important to deal with facts too, genuine facts. I remember growing up and in high school in the late 60s, hearing about the evils of marijuana. And a lot of people got hooked on drugs because the evils of marijuana that they heard about were just so over-exaggerated. They just assumed that everything else was over-exaggerated too. So I think it's important to give a level, truthful analysis. When you don't try to scare kids with, or scare people with over generalizations. And the evils of marijuana weren't there wasn't necessarily a stepping stone. Yeah.
Gateway, they call them gateway drugs
Sure.
to other things, and that's an issue on the state ballot come this fall. Is do we want to legalize recreational marijuana? I mean, right now you're allowed to have some. It's still illegal, but you're allowed to have, I think, X amount, and it's only a ticket. You don't get arrested.
Right.
It's not a conviction. But there will be a vote in November of whether to make recreational marijuana legal in this state.
How do you think it'll go?
I don't know.
There was a contingent of legislators that went out to Colorado recently to
Yeah.
see how it went there, and they must be given hearings or talks about it or something. I've been reading about it. I'm just not sure where, but it will be interesting to see.
I've been hearing
but
both pros and cons coming out of Colorado. Some people are praising it, and others are saying it's the worst thing to happen since Lucifer.
but we do have some businesses right here in the South Coast area having to do with that. So Bears watching, I suppose.
I think it will probably pass. I do.
And if it doesn't pass this year, it'll pass 5 years.
True, nobody gets right. If we never stop. We keep going until we get it, right?
Exactly.
But that's a serious thing, though. There are other ballot initiatives. You know, we have the casino issue is already out there now. We have, you know, Taunton is poised to get a resort casino in the near future. I don't know where the litigation is at the moment, but you know, you have Springfield. I think they've already broken ground. They've scaled theirs back quite a bit from the original plan. Plain Ridge has been open for a while now. They've
Now,
had
Brockton's right next door to you, and they're kind of up in the air. How does that affect you?
Oh, we would. Bridgewater would certainly get a mitigation from a casino if it went in Brockton, but I'm not too sure that's going to happen. I really think that in this region, the most likely area for the South Coast or this area that's been designated is Taunton or New Bedford. And New Bedford just, I don't know, they just folded up and said we can't do it. They kind of gave up. It's like, or something happened down there. So Taunton,
It looks like Taunton's a done deal.
Taunton's a
but-
done deal, and it's going to happen. And do you need one in Brockton as well? No.
They're
no.
too close.
You can't. You can't. And then, you know, Plain Ridge has already seen revenues up and down and so forth. So you can't saturate it too much because then it really, you know, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see, you know, the benefits and the negatives that come along with. But Taunton will be a resort casino. Will be more to do. And I always say, you can go to a casino and not gamble. There's shows. You can eat, you have a nice dinner,
Shop.
watch people. You know, you don't have to gamble down in Connecticut. It's hard not to, but you don't have to. There's other things to do with shows and things like that. So,
People watching's half the show there
right,
at Foxwoods.
yeah. So it's, I think it'll be a great addition to the community of the city of Taunton and its surrounding areas. It will help, but there's got to be responsible. Programs available to those that can't handle, you know, the addiction to gambling and so forth, where they're losing their houses and things like that. So those kinds of programs need to be in place. But the benefits of the social aspect of it, of the vacation aspect of it, of having a nice dinner and a show and so forth would be very, very nice.
Once again, we're running out of time,
Running out of
Dennis.
time.
But any last words coming from Bridgewater?
No, again, it's great to be here at the Taunton Cable Access Studio. My first visit here, and I've spent many times in the Bridgewater Cable Studio, so it's always nice to get a flavor of another one. It's a beautiful facility here. You guys should be proud of what you have here in the city
It's a
of Taunton.
spectacular facility Taunton has here. And we're very grateful to Kim and Ben over at the TCAM facility. They've really aided us in putting this program together.
Sure. And thank you for having me on.
Yes, and it's been great fun talking about local politics,
Yes.
local issues.
Sure
It's been
has.
great.
Yeah. Even though it's Bridgewater, which is kind of a little to the
I
north.
mixed Taunton in my conversation a
There you
lot. I
go.
did.
There you go. Thank you. This is Paul Attendra, South Coast Matters.
And I'm Julie Taylor, and look for us on Facebook at South Coast Matters, and you can reach us at southcoastmatters@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your comments and whether you're watching.
And please join us again. Thank you.